And one more thing I think we must have noted, once of course self-learning, and also they use a better word, let learning happen. In a beautiful way. Let it happen. So, those who are into this integrated education seminars and schools, do you see any similarity between what we saw and any of the principles that we have in Aurobindo?
Maybe Aurobindo.
Yeah, but I'm asking.
Nothing can be taught.
Huh? Nothing can be taught. First point. Which is not working. Yeah, you see the question of nothing can be taught. You are only a facilitator. So you see what the gentleman has done, exactly the same principle. He has only facilitated by the computer in the whole, and then learning took place by itself. So what do we learn? You see, a principle that Aurobindo had written 100 years back is now being practiced in different ways, and the Aurobindo perhaps doesn't even know the name of Father Aurobindo. Where is Milesh?
No, it's not.
So the thing is, what I was telling you, the new principles of education according to Aurobindo and the mother are happening without you and me knowing. Here is a gentleman who experimented in the Kuppam village, and then he has proven to us how learning can take place. So first, so let us not really be so serious that I am a teacher, so I must teach. What has the fellow done? They provided a computer with some hardware and software, and the touch a mouse and all the things. So that really breaks our idea, and we see that we can create an atmosphere where children can learn by themselves. So the whole challenge of the management is how to create, what to create. But I think this is a very beautiful assurance. You see, he has taken children who don't even know the language. And yet you saw the child, you have given us DNA and all, how do you understand? So this has really knocked me out when I saw that what we are speaking theoretically is a fact. That's why I show this in all my conferences. And especially those of us who are aspiring for a kind of a new system of education, transformative education. Names are not important. You see, the gentleman has done, the poorest of the poor who did give them language. And they have learned something a decade ahead distance. So I wish schools like Millennium, you are having a great inspiration. And you have a small school with class 5. Let's innovate something like that. I mean, give a week, give a period a week, a morning a week. It's worth doing. Otherwise, we keep repeating the same thing once a month. Just knowing this, there is no fun. Okay? So that's what it is. Learning, let it happen itself. So we are only facilitators. Nothing can be taught. That this is a fabulous proof that nothing needs to be taught. You give a provision, a facility, and the child learns. So you see how much we have underestimated the child, thinking that I know he doesn't know. The truth is, you don't know that you don't know. You think that child there. I mean, this has been a very simple example for me, where the teacher ought to now unlearn all his mental prejudices. You think that you know. But your knowledge, that fellow, that little child, kid of 6 years, 8 years can know better than you. So that's one thing. And secondly, what you see is, what is the second principle? Is it second principle? Huh? Yeah. For the sake of others. The second principle that Aurobindo has given is that the mind should be consulted in its growth. It only means that you don't impose yourself. So how much we impose our own ideas, our own preferences, our own prejudices. You see, we think we are very good parents. I'm giving them an education, sending to the rest of the school. But how much of our own mental poisoning we give to the child by giving our prejudices? Don't go to that family, it's a bad family. There's a bad religion, don't mix with these people, this caste people, this creed people, this Brahmins, not good. All that nonsense we teach at home. So who should we blame when the child tomorrow has burnt a bus? So don't blame them for things. The teachers and the parents are primarily to blame because we have put in this division. And then we say, you pass first class, I'll send you to America. False aspirations. So you see, what we are trying to do is, services, consult the child. Let him grow. You see, these kids, I was standing on each other's shoulders to look into the screen, and they came to know the DNA principle which none of us knows here. So the child, if is left to learn with the faculties facilities given, he is the fastest learner. And the third one is what you said? Near to the heart. But that is also a very good principle for those of you who don't know. So this is, learning should take place from near to the heart. That is from the gross to the abstract. Known to the unknown. Because you see, this is the natural growth of a child. When the baby is 2 years old or 1 year old, he doesn't look at philosophy and abstract things. He wants to touch things. You see, how does the baby grow? The first thing is it touches. And what it touches must be near if it is 3 meters away, can't touch. So it touches the toys, the mother's body. And then when it touches the mother's body, he is assured. So what is happening? That the self-confidence, that assurance, the safety, that I'm protected, all this comes from the nearest thing around him. And then slowly as he grows up, then he has relations, he has mamas and mommies and uncles and aunts. Then slowly moves on to the school, he has friends and peers and all that. Then he slowly goes to the higher schools and he has people. So you see, this is the natural growth of the child. So why not in education? Why do you bring in your education philosophy or the history of Europe, history of America, before knowing what our own background does? Before do your students know what is the Varangal culture? Have you seen the thousand pillar temple in Varangal? No, you take them to Ajanta Ellora, but you never show them the 1,000 pillar temple. So that's what Aurobindo is saying. Know your own location. Take them around, show them gardens, show them little things, good, bad, dirty, but let them feel the putting there. And then you take them to the higher levels. All that, of course, these are the principles. Now coming back, I'll get back to this principle, but as you were saying, so that I wanted to tell you right away. So friends, what Aurobindo has said is not a theory anymore. People are doing it and doing it well. If anyone is not following Aurobindo, it is Aurobindo in schools. We only talk about it, first principle, near to God, how much are you doing? So I want you to awake to this necessity. If you don't do, don't bother. Somebody else is doing that. Sogata Mitra is doing that. Better than us. He doesn't know Shiva's name. So what's the fun of us knowing the principles, having lectures and seminars, and not wanting to listen to this? So here is the thing, and then he also said one place, knowing becomes obsolete. Means redundant, useless. So my question is, are the teachers of tomorrow useless? That's the thing we should really ask ourselves. 50 years hence, or 40 years, or even 20 years, will the teachers become an obsolete product? You have to think on that. Because you see today, you go to your Google, question, you write any question, you have to answer. So what's happening is, knowledge is not really restricted to the classroom, to your textbooks. And sometimes you have seen your students know more than you, because they have consulted the Google last night and came home and you said, my God, I didn't know that. So gradually we are seeing that we are becoming a little redundant. Because the student is knowledge-wise more equipped because of thanks to technology. So now the question is, are teachers necessary for tomorrow, 20 years hence? And that's one thing we can take a debate later. But I want you to think about that. What's the role of the teachers? Is it only to give information? And I bet you 15 years all of you have no jobs. Because already in the mobile I can get my entire book, Google's, the small little mobile. I can find any answer to my question. So if the teacher says, a flower has 5 petals and this, madam, thank you for that, I got more information. He will show you better than you should. So now the question is, are you going to teach only subjects? Then you are not required. 15 years, write it down. So now we are, as a profession, at a big crossroads. If we as teachers have to survive, we have to do something more. And that's what education is all about. You see, Google will not tell you about the development of faculties. You will say, what is the question of observation, concentration, it will tell you. But how to develop concentration, they may also tell you. But how to develop concentration in my classroom with my children who are from Kulchikuppam, who are Vaitikuppam, or Marangarh, because every milieu changes. Whereas Google fellow will give a general idea how to develop concentration. So now the challenge is, if you as a profession have to survive, you will have to take to intermediate education. Right? If it is only information of subject, no question. You will not have a profession any longer. 10, 15 years back. So that's what Aurobindo and the mother foresaw. That the teacher has a different role. And that's what we are getting over this. Now to have the same classification further, we said vital is aesthetic, and we have seen the necessity of beauty and joy. How do you develop the personality? Google will not develop your personality. It will give you info. But it is you and me who will develop the personality of the child. Otherwise the child may become so technocrat, so much into the technocrat. Some of you rightly mentioned, they lose the human element. They may become robots of tomorrow. So in order to prevent this human growth towards the robotism, you are required. That is this matter. If you are just subject teachers, you are leaving the fate of humanity towards robotism. And we will be blamed for that. So we have aesthetic development. There's something more which we have missed, or we should add in fact. We have talked about it. Values, moral values, which are spiritual values, cultural values, religious values, whatever it is. So what we see is in this aesthetic training itself, we have the moral values and including all that we have to say, etc. But you will say, does integral education encourage these moral values? Is it necessary for integral education to have moral values? There is no record of relation, I forgot.
Yeah, that we have
Okay, that's fine. Is it necessary? Why? Why not, sir? Yeah. And I think from Sugatamitra, you have understood one more point I want to bring up to you. You said, somebody said students are asking us a lot of questions. You said that. But the real teacher, real classroom is when the teacher asks the questions. If you educate the child, go on asking questions, and now every question, endless sir, Google
when we explain something, they ask us questions.
yeah, but
It did not happen earlier.
yeah.
So we have to be very informed.
Well informed, and now your methodology of teaching is by asking questions. You see, by asking questions, what are you doing? You are making
Eliciting answers from him. Making faces.
elicit answer from him. And you see, as I am directing you towards, you have something in your mind. But let the child tell it, discover it, make mistakes, doesn't matter. But if you give a ready-made answer, this is what it is, 1, 2, 3, 4, you have killed the inquisitiveness, the curiosity, the imagination of the child. You have made him into a dumb computer. You have fed the answer, click, enter, you get the answer. So tomorrow's fashion of teaching is, teacher asks, student has to answer. All this what we said, the imagination, logic, curiosity, faculties, are we to develop? To draw the answer. So now you see how the challenges are done. There's no more others, we are becoming parents. Lesson number 14, on June 3rd I will do that. Principal says I will finish, yes madam. We have become just parents. Next year the same, June 14, lesson number 14, the same thing I repeat. Fortunately you don't put the cassette on and go, or maybe next time you have the video and say put it on. So now there is a challenge in education that you as teachers, if you have to survive, you have to change to integral education. It's no more the student asking questions, you have to ask the questions to elicit these answers. All these faculties, see sense of beauty. You just throw something there and leave it. And then just notice who is going to pick it up. You see, you have tested his sense of beauty. Can there be a dirty thing like that on the floor? This is a very casual thing. But that's how you test. You throw a piece of paper. It's a sense of beauty, sense of ugliness, sense of acuity. So you have to be very innovative, creative, better than your computer and your people. Yeah. Now third one, moral values, or the second one, is very important. There comes basically history, lives of people, which we have been doing in the past. You may say what's big about, what's new about integral education. But here I am doing this with an idea of developing in the child a natural curiosity for hero worship. It's inborn in the child. It may be Tendulkar, it may be some Khans here and there. But we may say, hey, why is my son praising this fellow, this cricketer? You may say, no, you should praise that Raman Maharishi and this man. Why a film hero and a cricket hero? But don't snub him. That is natural. And what's more natural is for him to hero worship somebody alive today. Then a Ramakrishna or a Ramaharshi was living 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, or Vedas will say, wow, 5,000 years ago. There's no relevance. The child lives in the present. So don't snub him when he says, oh, mommy, I want this person's photograph. Because you're supposed to be a religious man, Vaishnava, Shaiva, what, I don't know. But Aurobindo would say, develop. And especially in your classes, you read. So read from the present to the past. Slowly take in with the greatness of the past. But if you start saying, we have this Vedic, Valmiki Muni, and who is the Valmiki Muni? Mummy, I don't even know. So everywhere it is the same thing, near to far, present to the past, present to the future. So Aurobindo and the mother would say, there are qualities that need to be developed. And then test him in the field. Hero worship, leadership. You said, oh, Shivaji was a great leader. Fine, you read the book, fine. But tomorrow take him to the playfield and see his leadership quality. You see, I've taught him something and I'm testing him on the physical level. So games are not just to win and to get prizes. There's again a fallacy. That you must get the first prize, second prize, gold medal, this medal. But you see a lot of our gold medalists, they land up in the hospital because they have taken drugs. You see the motivation? Somehow must come first. You take steroids, you take drugs, you do what the hell you want but take a gold medal. After 5 years the gold medal is withdrawn and then you are a shame of the nation. So that's again a wrong motivation, wrong idea. So in the ashram, all of you, those who have seen, none of our students are asked to go to the Olympics or to do this and that. But do the physical culture for developing qualities which are psychological qualities. Then of course there is a physical building. Physical build-up not only of strength, of flexibility, of plasticity, all these qualities of the body you need to develop. So if you just say, I'm a player of football game gives you the strength of your calf muscle, thigh muscle and a good knee. Nothing more. But my waist may be as tight and tomorrow when I sleep I may bend down. So you need gymnastics. And you need gymnastics, you need athletics, which are light and sprightly. So what I want to say is each of these types again, they are not subjects. Please remember, gymnastics, games, basketball or football, don't treat it as a basketball on Monday evening and Tuesday evening as a football. But go behind and see what does basketball give to your body. If it says yes sir, it gives the strengthening of the flexibility and the strengthening of the upper shoulders, then you can have any other game. Because you may not have big enough ground for basketball. But the thing is, you want to develop the upper arms. Do some other thing. So what I am trying to tell you must have seen, everything, the outer has a meaning within. If you catch the mental faculty, if you catch the aesthetic development, if you catch the flexibility. So these are what are important, not the games per se. And then you have all this, of course in the ashram we have a different schedule every day where we can afford it, we have plenty of grounds, plenty of the swimming pool and everything. But not every school can afford all that, fine. But it doesn't matter. But if you want to develop flexibility, strengthening of your muscles, you go to simple asanas, yoga asanas. You don't have a big ground, you have just a hall, fine, go ahead. Who says that you may play basketball? And in fact, Aurobindo recommends highly yoga asanas. He says every child must go through this training of yoga asanas. Why? It's not just giving you flexibility. You get that plus something else. What he calls it, the quietening of the nerves. You see, athletics, gymnastics, basketball, football, they excite your nerves. But the yoga, they quieten your nerves.
Because the meditation keeps the mind silent, the yogasana keeps the nerves silent.
Nerves silent. And once the nerves are silent and calm, your aesthetic being is calm. Your moral sense is calm. Your physical senses themselves become so quiet that you want to meditate next. So you see, that's what Aurobindo tells us. Our ancients were not fools to give us these exercises, and people say, why did we have basketball 50 years back? Our ideal was quietening of the being, the emotions, the mind. That's our Indian ragas. They don't make you get up and dance. But you put a MJ, I think what, Michael Jackson, people will all start dancing. That's excitement. Whereas Indian music, Indian dance, Indian cooking, Indian drama, they were all geared for the quietening of the being. Meditation was not the only thing. In every activity we sought the quietening and the peace and the quietude. Because our Indian culture itself is based on the quietness of the being, the Shanti, when we say Shanti, Shanti. It's not just a mantra at the end of the meditation, we say Shanti. There must be Shanti in the body, Shanti in the feeling, Shanti in the mind, Shanti in the soul. How will I do that? So you see, it was a fantastic thing. So physical culture, here in integral education, occupies a very important field to develop the different aspects of the body. So, and then the best thing you can do, if you don't have the provision, or even if you have basketball, football, etc., at least see that they also have this yogasanas as important as the others. Otherwise, just body culture is misplaced. You have a lot of the gyms nowadays. People go there for what? You go to a gym, like it. You go there to build up what? Are you sure? Build up muscles. Lose your weight.
Strengthen of body.
Tension of body. Strengthen of body. Strengthen of body. I think ladies go to what she says. He hits the nail on the head. Toning of muscles. And strengthening of body. Relaxing tensions. Well, all kinds of things are there.
Energy should get exhausted.
Get exhausted. See, the ideal is what? It's again a misplaced ideal. You want to lose your weight, you want to look basically sensuous. Be attractive, so the other person notices your curves. But wait, what has happened? I mean, we have gone away from the physical education where you are supposed to have the basics of the body's flexibility, the strengthening, the harmony. In fact, mother once told us that even walking is an art. You know, you have sometimes high heels and you do the walking and even walking has to be harmonious. That's a training. So if you want to ask your children, ask them to walk in the classroom. Don't think it's a business thing. Your mother says, I've noticed people who walk so ugly, so uncouth. There's no balance. She says, even the walking is a real art, not the catwalk, for information. As the dirtiest walk you can ever think of. Not dirty morally, but physically it's so disharmonious. You can see it's not a human being walking, it's really a cat or a damn thing what it is. So you see, when we imitate animals, what happens? We become inhuman. The simple thing is, we have to get into the physical culture with this idea to develop something basic, to develop harmony, to develop beauty, to develop balance, to develop flexibility, to develop beauty, and some of these leadership qualities. Already done. So now we have covered more or less your so-called mental, physical, vital, of which you are so eager. But I've shown you the inner dimension, not just the activities by themselves or subject by themselves. But then somebody said about the psychic. Now I think I know the spelling. What is spelling? Right? Which is the correct or not? First or second? Second one is right or the first one? First one is right. Yeah, somebody said, mother, he came to the mother and said, Mother, I've got all the kicks in the world except the psychic.
Meaning-wise, the second one is the correct. Meaning-wise, second one is the correct.
Meaning-wise, second one is correct. Because we get kicks around, but if only we got the psychic, do so good. That is the essential thing. We have all the vital kicks, the mental kicks, the physical kicks, but no psychic.
So what I think you should say a little bit about psychic for the BSBB teachers, they may not be acquainted with this terminology. So you say from soul to psychic, please.
Whatever is this psychic is the fourth element of integral education: mental, vital, physical, psychic. Now, what we discussed about integral education, about the mental, what are the three things we discussed?
Mental, vital, physical.
Okay.
Now the fourth one, psychic.
Now here I would like you to understand it in a little different way. I like to summarize the thing in a different manner. Now supposing this is a sketch of a human being. At the head. And this is called, what is this mathematics? This upper word. What is the word for that? And what is the word for this?
Vertical and horizontal.
Vertical and horizontal. Good. So that is the vertical and that's the horizontal. Right? So integral education is the vertical and the horizontal education together. That's another way of integrating, understanding the word integral. Integral means the upper vertical movement and the horizontal movement. This is essentially taken from integral yoga. Integral yoga is always the vertical yoga and the horizontal yoga. But I can bring it into the education itself. In what manner? Now this horizontal is exactly this: physical, vital, mental. This is what we call the outer. So now you get the difference. There the physical, vital, mental, which is called the education of the outer being. Okay? Understand that? Yeah. Now when we go there is a deeper thing called the subliminal. Let me write it for you. And then this is another part is called the inmost. And now please learn this new ideas, new terminology. The outer being is mind, body, physical. The inner being is called the subliminal. Don't ask me any question what is subliminal, I will not answer it. Next is called the inmost being. That is where we have the soul, or students or another would call it as the psychic being. Get it? This is the horizontal movement of the education. So basically, in integral education, what we are doing is the education of the horizontal level. So we are training physical, vital, mental, perfecting them, and training them whatever you want. Get this idea? Your question. Is it okay? So we are basically, in our schools, we are concentrated on perfecting these three. But what is this thing in my hand? Mouthpiece or microphone or what am I using it for?
To amplify.
To amplify my sound. So is the microphone Anand Reddy? No. What is Anand Reddy doing with the microphone?
Assisting, it is assisting.
Just using it for getting amplified.
Good. The word is I am using this for amplifying my sound. So when I use this, what is this called? Tool or another word? Instrument. So Anand Reddy is using the microphone as an instrument for his amplification of sound. Done? Similarly, this MVP, mind, vital, physical, are only instruments for whom? The soul. So the real owner, the real person is the soul. And these three are only instruments. Can you get it? Pardon? So the soul is using the mind, vital, physical for as instruments for expressing itself. Just as I am using the microphone for expressing my voice, so the real person within each one of us, within the child and you and me, is called the soul or the psychic being, which is using the microphone or this MVP. Now supposing this microphone is defective, can you hear me? You can't. You say, sir, what's happened? I say, I'm sorry, the instrument is defective. So what do? I call my musician and say, please do something with the instrument. And he comes in and says, yes sir, now it's okay. So what's happening? If the instrument is bad or wrong or defective, then I'm not able to express myself. So the purpose of perfecting your MVP, mind, vital, physical, is to create, is to give to the soul a very good instrument. Because the soul may say, look, I want to sing, I want to beautifully dance, I want to have something, I'm in a great mood to have this aesthetic beauty and joy. And you have no such sense. Your school only gave you mathematics and physics and this and that and said you have got to get 91% and nothing else. And you are never given aesthetic beauty, aesthetic culture. So the soul will cry. He says, my God, look, I want to really express myself in the sense of beauty. And the outer body doesn't have this instrument. So it's a real pain for the soul. So similarly, if you have a very lousy mind, if you have been only a dancer and a musician and a singer and nothing else but the mind says, I want to read something, I'm quite tired of music, let me read Ramakrishna, let me read Ramana, let me read the Vedas or the Gita. And says, I have no idea what it means, I cannot understand. Again the soul cries, says, what instrument have I got? So now the whole purpose of building up, perfecting your outer instruments is not for the sake of doing that, by getting a degree or a brilliant job in America. Is it for? Perfect? For the perfect expression of the soul. Or enjoyment of the soul. Let me say, I am enjoying talking to you through this mic. So for the joy of the soul, for the sake of the soul, develop MVP. Not for the sake of getting a job or success or brilliance or whatever. You can, all that are bonuses. If the mic is good, any one of you can talk. So if I develop my MVP, then my soul is happy, expresses itself fully, then it can grow happily. So friends, I have given a completely worked passage of why you want MVP. Just to say integral education is MVP. But what the hell do you want that? Now we understand it's for the sake of the soul. Not for the sake of success and this and beauty and glory and name. So if we give the soul the possibility of the joy, the delight, the Ananda of self-expression, you see the child is so happy, bouncing around. So are we all. If my body is not well, if it's sick, the soul cries. It says, well, I wanted to do this, you have a terrible body. So you see, the owner of this body is unhappy with his body, with this vital, with this mental. So friends, at one goal, let me stop the saying that you develop your integral education on the outer being for the sake of the soul or the psyche. Got the idea? So now we know integral education is not the education of the mental, vital, physical. Mental, vital, physical, every school in the world is giving, every school worth the name. But is there anyone who is giving the education of the soul? Nobody thinks of that. So integral education, transformative education, self-learning education is not self-learning for the sake of learning. For the first time, Sri Aurobindo and Ananda would say, the education of the soul is important. And why did he say that? You know, he had his earlier education in England. And when he came to India, back home, he said, look, they are having, in India is having a soul-less education. That's the first word he uttered. Uttered means he wrote. It's a soulless commercial education. So there I caught for the first time, he said all this education is bereft of the soul. That's why India has gone off the track. So we are imitating Americans, we are imitating Britishers, we are imitating, what's that fellow who brought the education system in India? So because we never looked at our own soul. We had a ready-made Macaulay and you are seeing your TED talk. Why did Macaulay do that? To create clerks from the entire colonization people. Because they wanted clerks for their development. So friends,
Come here in front. Come both of you. Put all your cells on the silent mode, please. No current? No sense. हमारी प्यारी माता हमारी प्यारी माता आके तुम बसो हृदय में छाओ सांसों में केवल ये झंकार है दिल में सदा उच्चार है प्रणवी देवी बार बार रोम रोम करे पुकार प्रणवी देवी बार बार रोम रोम करे पुकार हमारी प्यारी माता आके तुम बसो हृदय में छाओ मधुर